Donnybrook has been around for 8 years and has established itself as the preferred set of skirmish rules for lots of players interested in 17th century shenanigans. We've never really put a lot of heat under it, but despite our lacklustre approach, it's flourished. This video is an attempt to get a better score on my school report card and reinforce our collateral for those interested in the war in Ireland between 1688 and 1691. To illustrate Donnybrook on the battlefield, I've chosen an interesting little vignette from the Battle of Aughrim. It involves the actual death of a Welsh Williamite colonel, Charles Herbert. Some sources say Herbert was captured by the Irish and executed after his regiment routed during a counterattack. Dig a little deeper and Colonel Herbert may have been the victim of an accidental or even deliberate blue on blue incident. He once almost took his own head off with a loaded pistol he was waving around, which accidentally discharged. His regiment was poorly disciplined in the hell of the Dundalk camp in 1689, and it may just be that person or persons unknown decided to get rid of him, and of course the Irish defeat provided the perfect scapegoats. It could all be put down to papist barbarity. Job done. This scenario is from the third part of the Aughrim 4-play trilogy called Every Man a Hero. The game is called Kill Herbert. Our anti-hero is cowering under a thicket dead centre of the battlefield with a leg wound, having been deserted halfway up Kilcommodon Hill by his regiment and the rest of the brigade. X marks the spot. In a lull, both sides are combing the field for plunder, wounded and prisoners. The objective is to acquire Herbert, and then his fate is randomly decided when the battle is over. Along the way, there is booty to be plundered, hazards to be negotiated, and surprises to be had. I have prepared an event card deck specifically for this scenario. It has 16 cards, which means every run of the game will be different. This video covers a version which was played to completion in 5 turns and took less than 60 minutes. An event card is drawn before every turn starts, and as you'll see, these added a huge level of colour to the proceedings. Each side has 4 units, 4 characters and a commander. The units are slightly smaller than the normal for Donnybrook because the table is a bijou 24 inches square. It simulates the ground over which the Irish infantry successfully counterattacked in the late afternoon of July 12, 1691. In addition to the human prize, there are 2 abandoned battalion colours on the field to be recovered. The loss of units, the capture of colours, and of course the acquisition of Herbert all gain or lose victory points. Let's join Captain John O'Neill as he faces Captain Luke Lillingston in Kill Herbert. Donnybrook is card driven. Each unit and character has a card, and when these are drawn, the unit can activate. A reload card and an end of turn card are also included in the deck. This means that sometimes not every unit gets to activate if the end of turn card appears. It makes Donnybrook exciting, unpredictable and usually very funny. We got off to a bang as the event card for turn 1 was turned over. It was a belter, as we say down Lanarkshire way. Act of God meant a stray cannon shot took off the head of a randomly selected character. That turned out to be a Williamite spy operating in one of the Irish units. This Donnybrook character doesn't even have a model on the table, as it's assumed to be contained within the muster of normal soldiers. Its potentiality for mischief was thus removed without anyone ever knowing which unit he lurked within. 2 Williamite units got moving on turn 1. A group of grenadiers under the command of a lieutenant spotted the lost regimental colour and set off to retrieve it. The drummer character accompanying Stuart's musketeers set the pace, adding 3 inches to their move and bringing them very close to Herbert's hiding place, with the enemy nowhere in the race. The Irish failed to get off the blocks before the end of turn card appeared. The event card for turn 2 did not help Captain Lillingston's cause. 2 stray cavalrymen galloped across the battlefield and ran into the detachment from Thomas Earl's regiment. 1 man was cut down and the attached sergeant fought off the 2 riders who galloped away to the south. Whether they were Williamites or Irish, we never did find out. First out of the deck were Stuart's musketeers, who had already almost reached Herbert's hidey hole on the previous turn. They moved right up to the thicket with the intention of grabbing the wounded officer next turn. The first Irish activation came from the small detachment of guards who moved up towards the hedge line. Next out was the detachment from Herbert's on the other side. On seeing the guards, they blazed away, killing one man with their noisy but rather inaccurate fire. The next activation was from a close order detachment of Gordon O'Neill's regiment. They fired at the advancing grenadiers, and despite the partial cover provided by an abandoned wagon, all of the Williamites fell. This was a devastating setback as they were poised to lift the lost colour. The deck produced the reload card, and 3 lucky units primed their weapons. By the end of turn 2, the Rapparees and their fighting priest had advanced in search of plunder. 5 Williamites, including the turncoat, had fallen, and a solitary Irish guard had been lost. Turn 3's event card was yet another blow, this time though, a blow up. A wagon was randomly selected. It caught fire, and being full of powder, it exploded. The vehicle in question was in the field right beside the advancing men of Errol's detachment. On an odds or evens throw for each model, 4 went down, leaving only the sergeant and a single musketeer. This unit had already been attacked by the marauding cavalry. Not their day. Stuart's men opened up across the thicket at the Rapparees, but the fire was pretty ineffective. The guards took aim at Herbert's men, and then a bit of Tinseltown drama unfolded. Captain Lillingston activated and was able to lay claim to the fallen Irish colour lying to the front of a shattered artillery position. No sooner had he picked it up than the card for his counterpart, Captain John O'Neill, turned over. The Irish captain loosed off both his pistols at the Englishman, wounding him in the head and rendering him unconscious. O'Neill unsheathed his sword, and as his opponent lay prostrate, he ran him through and wrenched the precious banner from his grasp. A heroic or a callous act? You can be the judge. Herbert's men clambered over the hedge and attacked the guards. They were no match for the Irish veterans and their young heroic ensign. 2 English soldiers were killed, and Herbert's failed their morale check. They retreated, suitably chastened and very shaken. It was all kicking off now. The fighting father led his Rapparees across the top of Herbert's hideaway and straight at Stuart's men. Initially the bandits did well. 2 of Stuart's men were cut down, and the priest clobbered the enemy drummer with his crucifix. Nevertheless, the English passed their morale check and lived to fight on. The turn ended with O'Neill's musketeers firing a volley at the isolated English captain who had led the grenadiers. Although not killed, a bullet found its mark, knocking him cold. Turn 4 began with an event card which forced the delirious Colonel Herbert to break cover amidst the mayhem and crawl towards the enemy along the hedgerow. Errol's sergeant had dreams of glory, leading his single follower to rescue the colonel, who was clawing his way along the ditch on the far side of a hedge. Captain O'Neill, meanwhile, strode out to deposit his prize in a safe rearward position. The sniper attached to O'Neill's musketeers pulled off a competition-level shot to dispatch the wounded officer lying on the ground beside his dead grenadiers. The young ensign drew his pistols and hit one of Herbert's men cleanly. This was too much for the ill-disciplined rabble, who bolted never to return. The skulking Herbert was spotted by O'Neill's pikemen, who, under orders from the sergeant, carried him to the rear. Meanwhile, back in the bear pit, the fighting father and his bandits could not land the knockout blow on Stuart's disciplined regulars, who'd been gaining the upper hand. Even the dazed drummer got to his feet and began tapping out a tattoo on the tonsure of the holy man with a couple of cudgels. Then, turn 4 was up. Turn 5. It began with yet another bizarre event. The victims were once more the hapless Earls. A riderless, panicking horse thundered across the field, trampling the last musketeer underfoot. Before he could react, O'Neill's ever-static musketeers took down the sergeant, meaning all of Thomas Earl's men had fallen. Back at the Donnybrook, Stuart's provided a glimmer of metal by thumping the Rapparees, who finally turned and fled. Well, the only survivor did, together with Father Fisticuffs. By the end of turn 5, the Irish had Herbert, recovered their standard, routed 1 enemy unit and wiped out 2 others. They killed 4 from the 5 characters and caused, in total, 20 casualties for the loss of 8 of their own men. And what of Herbert? Of the 4 outcomes possible, the randomly generated result was the delivery of the colonel to an Irish surgeon, a declaration of renewed loyalty to his estranged monarch, and a purse of gold to the Irish pikemen who had rescued him. This earned them 3 from a maximum of 4 victory points. Together with 3 won for the recovered standard, this gave them 6. They lost 1 for the rout of the Rapparees, giving 5. The Williamites lost 3 units, making a -3, and 4 dead characters, making a further -4. The difference between the sides was a massive 12 victory points, an emphatic win, but no dead Herbert. If you've enjoyed this slice of swashbuckling, please like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and come back for some more soon. See you next time.